Hey, this is Gifty. Welcome to another feature of Baller Mom feature, where I provide or have discussion with individuals within the sports community that is doing great things to support our kids and making sure that they're more than just an athlete. Today's special feature guest is Kevin Wilson from National Basketball Youth Mentorship Program, and you are going to learn and find out more about why this organization exists, what they have coming in the future, and Kevin's incredible story of where he started and how he got here. So, without any further delay, I am going to have you today. And thank you to everybody that will be tuning in or watching a little bit later. So, here we go, Kevin.
Hey,
Hello.
what's going
Hi.
on?
How are you?
I'm good. How are
Good.
you?
I'm good. I'm good. How's your week going? Or how was your long weekend?
Long weekend was good. Got got outside, went for a hike. So
Yeah.
and then just the usual work, um, like you're aware of because you're always going and working, so you're aware.
Yeah. Well, it's good to take a little break in between too. We had a really good weather, so I can't really complain. Um,
Hmm.
whenever summer comes on the calendar, let it come. But for now, let's enjoy the weather, right?
Definitely. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So there'll be a couple of different people that will be coming out. So for those that will be joining, if you have any questions, by all means, put it in the chat. It's an open forum, and if I will answer, I will. If not, you can direct Kevin, and he can provide the answers for you. But without me going any further, I would like to have the guests do their. So, who is Kevin Will?
Well, firstly, thank you. For what it's worth, just it's always important to shout out the people who do the shouting out, right? Like I feel like you I feel like you're always shouting people out, like bigging them up, all that stuff. So just shout
Thank you.
out to you, encouragement to keep going because it's definitely appreciated.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
thank you. But for me, personal side, I graduated from university recently, did my master's in physiotherapy. Recently married, got married last year. Um, yeah, went to Brock University, played basketball there. That's where I did my undergrad. Before that, went to Fleming College and got a diploma there, but was also playing basketball there.
Okay.
Um, Grew up in Ajax though originally, and now obviously through the mentorship program, just continuing to build that up, and just kind of really merging my two passions of physiotherapy on the personal side, and also the passions of wanting to mentor youth and build them up as well. So, in a nutshell, I guess that's me.
That's where I saw. You know what? Small world connection. I went to Fleming too.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah, which is so yeah, very good. Peterborough. Shout out to Peterborough.
yeah.
Okay, well, now that we know who you are, you already talked about when that you've already played sports before, which was basketball at Brock, and in at Fleming, let's say.
Mhm.
So, how did that lead into the youth mentorship aspect of it? Like, what did you see was missing that said, you know what, after going through all these various stages from in my life and playing sports and also having my education, this is missing and I want to be able to give back and start this.
Mhm. For me, I think it started before the college and university basketball experience. I think for me, it was seeing what I had. And I know for a lot of people, they like to give others what they didn't have growing up. But for me, it was almost the opposite. I wanted to give kids what I actually did have.
Okay.
Because I had two great mentors, including my parents, to really push me, guide me, and really just show me not only the basketball side of it, but also the everything else outside of it, the spiritual side, the um, how to be a man essentially, right? Like how to take care of people, certain things like that. So there was so much more that I was mentored on and taught. And then after finishing playing, it was a sense of, okay, how can I provide that same experience? Because I saw that it molded me into who I am today. So if I can help youth to achieve higher heights, then that would be perfect.
Perfect, perfect. And one thing that I noticed with NBYMP is it's not just, anyone that can just say I plays basketball in, I don't know, elementary school. I'm an expert. I'm going to give advice out. Most of the mentors or that you have that you connect to the mentees, I believe they've been vetted and they have wealth of knowledge and experience. So how does that come about in deciding that we want you to be on board and this is a value or this is our core value and we want you to be part of it so that you can continue to support our youth.
Yeah, and for the mentors, you mean, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it's funny because once I like quote unquote pitch it to them, like here's what we're trying to do, here's our vision, they're fully on board, and I think that stems from their how they were brought up, right?
Okay.
So it's in a sense how they were brought up to this what we were talking about earlier, right? It's some mentors didn't have this mentorship, and didn't have the tools needed to be successful, but they still got there. On the other side, some mentors did have it and they wanted to give it back to the youth. So I think it's an easy pitch to the mentors, and the mentors, like I said, are super eager, super willing. I like the fact that it's really flexible for them too,
Yes.
because I tell them, if you're able to mentor 10 kids throughout the month, then by all means, all right. But if you are, let's say you're playing professionally, you're overseas, the time difference is 8 hours. It's very difficult to chat with a child every month.
Mm-hmm.
Then, we're only giving that mentor one or two children to
Yeah.
mentor. But either way, like I said, like prime example would be Kayla Alexander in our program. Uh,
Yes.
she goes above and beyond to like it'll be late, she'll be overseas and it'll be super late. And she'll still hop on the phone with that 10-year-old, 11-year-old just to chat for 15 to 20 minutes. So
Wow.
it is inspiring once I see the mentors and how active, how much they want to get involved. So
That
yeah.
Yeah, and one thing is for those watching is the NYB, like Kevin's organization, like they're very responsive and quick in getting back to everybody if you have any specific questions. If it's not talking, if you want to go email, like your method of how individuals can connect with the youth is very it's good because it's open and it's not one. Like you said, some of the mentors are in other parts of the world where are sleeping, they are awake, and vice versa. But time lap and everything, they make it so flexible to be able to connect the youth, which is good. Now, with that, I know you also had a physical aspect of it because they can call and they can talk to them and everything. But pre-COVID, BC, before COVID, as I call it, there were a lot of different events that you were doing where you were going Ontario, across the province, across the city, different things that were, connected physically with the mentors there, in addition to, enhancing the physical aspect of it. Now that we've been in timeout for who knows how long, how else have you been continuing to still have that engagement to keep growing? So it's not, we can't meet at this particular gym for you to do drills, but there's something else that we can do because there's still that interest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the good thing was that like when I first thought of the NBYMP, like how we could offer the mentorship, offer some of the other services, a lot of my thought process was already virtual.
Okay.
So when COVID hit, it was almost like, here's our platform. It's already existing virtually. Like,
Mhm.
let's try and help you out. Like now that you're now in this virtual space with us, like let's help you out by providing that mentorship. But the big thing that I think the biggest positive thing for us during this COVID time has been I guess just clubs and teams seeing the importance of virtual learning that can improve on-court performance. Like
Yeah.
that's been the biggest realization for a lot of clubs and teams. So by us coming in and now offering the holistic piece of, basketball tailored sports psychology and basketball tailored sports nutrition,
Mhm.
injury prevention, financial literacy, everything that we offer, to see teams now appreciate that. And I'll be honest to say that pre-COVID, teams didn't appreciate it as much, because they thought, we're doing the on-court training, we're good with the on-court training, right?
Yeah.
But um, shout out to Josh. I think he's still in here. Josh Milliken. We just brought him on as our director of off-court development. So he brought up a quote from Phil Jackson, which was pretty cool. He said, Phil Jackson, something along the lines of, "There's more to life than basketball, and there's more to basketball than basketball."
I
Right?
like.
And there's really, like, again, like a lot of teams were just so focused on the in-gym aspect, that they didn't necessarily see that there was more to basketball than basketball, which is the off-court aspect too. So I
Exactly.
think, yeah. So to answer your question, like, pre-COVID was definitely different than what we're doing now post-COVID, but I think it's made us a much better program
Nice.
overall.
And I mean, I see you post it all the time. You get asking, I'm looking for something for my kid. I'm like, okay, contact Kevin and his team because they have individuals that can help you. And obviously, not every parent can do the travel physically, and some kids probably don't want to show their face virtually or anything. But I believe you provide the flexibility and the options depending on what service that you're looking for through the NYB, NY. It's been hard to say. I know I
It's long.
about when you first started and you had all these reels of having everybody try to say the full name, but
Yeah.
it's National Basketball Youth Mentorship. Okay, well, that's why I was read it out fully.
Yeah.
Um, you branched off into the foundation side of it. So how did that come about and how is that going?
hmm Yeah. So it gets confusing, not only the acronym, but the actual structure of the program. So we do have the NBYMP, which is, right, the basketball side, everything we talked about, the holistic learning.
Mhm.
That's a nonprofit organization. But as you mentioned, we have our charity as well. So it's a separate organization, NBYNP Foundation, but that was inspired by, I think for me, I was never strong academically. I remember I just posted recently about it, but my physics teacher, I told him I wanted to be a physiotherapist, right, in grade 11, and he told me, well, maybe you should choose a different profession,
Wow.
right? And that was, he was saying that naturally because I was struggling in his class, right? But you know, I'm a proven testimony to show, like, you could struggle and still
So
get
make
your master's degree, right? Like I just got my master's, God willing, I could go on and get my doctorate at some point. Um, but for the foundation, that's all about advancing education for youth.
Yep.
So through that, I genuinely wanted to provide free tutoring for those who are struggling, and also free scholarships and grants, right? Because again, I went on after high school, went on to Fleming College and to Brock University, and didn't receive a scholarship, right? Like I still have OSAP loans and student debt and all that stuff, right? So, but whenever I did receive, because there were occasional moments where I would receive, that $500 or
The bursaries.
that $1,000. Yeah, sorry, it lagged a bit,
That's okay.
but yeah, there were those times when I did get those little grants here and there, and those really meant a lot. Like those really helped me. So again, through the foundation, like our long-term goal um, is to provide a full academic scholarship, like to a child. And in my mind, if LeBron James can, give 50 scholarships a year or however many he's giving it through his public school, like our foundation should be able to give one in the future,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, that's the foundation in a nutshell.
Josh, I was just saying how, talking about your story, even with the teacher saying maybe you could have chosen a different profession. He just said, prove him wrong. And because you kept, you persevere, you preserved and kept going forward. He's like, it makes it very inspirational. Yeah, your story is very inspirational. Again, he says, want to start for sure. I mean, giving back is a great thing, and again, the foundation is good and it's awesome. When you go on their site, it provides all the specific information you need. But once you reach out via email, you're also automatically connected with somebody who that can help you, understand what subject that you're interested in and what you're looking to do. Now, in addition to that, I know you also do a lot of financial literacy aspect of it. So it's not so much the school academics or the school curriculum. You also take it outside of it because understanding how money works, especially if you want to be an athlete or if you're parents of an athlete, whether it be recreational or you're trying to be professional, you have that financial literacy aspect of it. So how did that also come out and how is it going? Just so that, and going back to the quote that you said, there's more to just being basketball and there's more to basketball than basketball.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most underrated aspect of the NBYMP. And it's because parents see, let's say a parent has a 10-year-old, right? In their mind, they're like, why does my 10-year-old need to learn about financial literacy? But at the same time, it's like, when I was 10 years old, personally growing up, I had a paper route, right? So I had to manage, the money that was coming in, the little money that was coming in. If I had, my friends helping to deliver papers, okay, how can I distribute the finances appropriately while keeping my quote unquote staff happy, right?
Yeah.
So I'm already learning business, right? So, and even from that standpoint, like I had a checkings account at that age. I was putting money away for savings, right? Like there's just so much benefit for even a 10-year-old learning that. So it's underrated because parents still aren't seeing that bigger picture and
Yes.
how that can benefit a child when they're 17, 18 going off to college, right? Yep. Parents see it as once the child gets to 17, 18, it's like, okay, here's what we did for financial literacy, but you should have been telling them that, from the beginning. And I think another aspect is like, if kids can learn about even like investing, right, at the age of 12, 13, 14, imagine what the small amount of money they put away, imagine what that looks like when they're 30, right? And for me being 29, there's a part of me is like, shoot, why didn't I look into real estate at 21 years old? Yeah. Right? Because 4 years in, and it would, the housing market now is whatever it is now. So a friend of mine, the person who leads our financial literacy stuff, he has 6 houses and he's the same age as me. Wow. Right? So there's such a big difference, right? And again, if we can show these young athletes like, hey, this is possible. You can own 6 houses by 29 years old. By the time you're 40, those houses are going to be worth whatever. That's the goal, right? So
I think it's good. And actually, just to continue with Josh, thank you so much, Josh. You say, let's go, Baller Mom, preach about it. So this is the full athlete. Daily, let's go, Kevin. Little bit of knowledge, definitely. So whether they're 10 years old or whether they're 20 or 15, just getting that numbers in their head in terms of how money works. Like I think I've talked to guests before, that it doesn't just come from a tree. You don't just tap your card and all of a sudden money's in there. Yes, the work is in, but what's going in, what's coming out, the basics of it. And I guess as they grow, each stage you continue to tell them about it. But I think you made a good point about investments aspect of it, because I think sometimes when we're thinking of financial literacy to our kids, we're telling them, okay, if you, like, I don't know if you remember the old Cosby show where the dad had to teach the son, you want to move out, okay, this is how much you worth, this is how much you're going to pay for rent, this is how much you're going to pay for your transportation, you have a fancy lifestyle, you have all these things, like in the end, how much you have left, maybe just $2, is that enough to even survive on the weeks until you get paid again, right? At early stages, and let them know a good point and a good thing. So when you're going through that with the kids or the family? Like, do you encourage or do you engage the parents to be part of the process, or is it just more the education of the kids understanding
Um, Specifically for financial literacy or for the whole program?
for the financial side?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe it's something we should incorporate the parents more in. Right now, it's mainly geared towards the athletes themselves. Um,
Okay,
and with that, we're still explaining it to them in a way that they can understand and implement, right? So, but maybe, like you mentioned, if we incorporate the parents, they can reinforce that behavior, right?
exactly.
So, for a 10-year-old, we're still mentioning, it would be great to save if you get $5 allowance, save 10% of that, right? And start saving your allowance and, just at a basic level, even like what money is, where it comes from, right? Like that stuff they can, once they learn it, at least they can then, um, utilize some aspect of it,
And get
right?
back.
But incorporating parents would be huge.
And with also encourage incorporating parents for the other programs, are parents part of it too, or is it always just mainly the students or the kids?
Yeah, we started doing with Let's Get Together,
Yeah,
Alice and Canning. So
yeah,
yeah, so shout out to her because she's always been doing a phenomenal job,
yeah.
especially with the parents. But we've incorporated stuff with her for parents. So the whether that's getting, if we were able to get the parent of an NBA player to come in and speak on what that was like,
Mm,
right, for them to grow up with that child, um, like that can be mentorship for the parents as well. So
yes.
that's something that we've done, but there's definitely room for more parent involvement, I believe.
Yeah, honestly, because I think once we're all students, regardless of how old you are, we're always ready to learn something, and getting the knowledge and experience from others and sharing it may help. And as you said earlier, if a child reaches like 20 years old and I never taught them anything about how to do any mental wellness or health advocacy or financial, that's because maybe through me, I never realized that. So by the time they get there, I'm just, telling them, then you realize it's hard to unlearn. But if I'm able to like participate, like, oh, okay, maybe when I'm saying this, let me turn it this way. Okay, like that knowledge sharing helps because it also connects you with that child to say we're all here learning together and through every stage. And like you said, that good parental upbringing will have that connection so you can keep going forward and makes it look like you're not just an athlete. So when you get whatever contract you get, whatever commitment you get, you can definitely understand the fine lines and the fine points, know at what stage you're going to be out and how much you're going to be worth at the end. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would definitely, if there's ever a parent's part of it, definitely let me know. I know I let them do the kids side of it, but the parental side, that I'm sure most of the moms here and the dad will definitely love that to happen as well. And then Josh again, sorry about that. Said, and when it comes from a pro, it's different. Yes, it does. For whatever reason, it's weird. It's just that thing. Like, okay, you have that big title. I mean, you work hard to get there. It's the admiration of where they are, and then just
Mm-hmm.
with them and getting that back. So kudos to that. Yes, shout out to Allison as well too, for all the work that she's also doing from the parent side. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so we've gone over yourself in terms of your line getting into the organization, the nonprofit side, the foundation side. But then
Mm-hmm.
it has Canada expanded into other parts of the world. So where else is NYMP at? And in case this will be, Instagram is live and anybody can come on the page and they're looking at it and say, oh, this is great services in Canada. I'm over here. How can I connect? What can I do? So where else are you located and how is that also going?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So because of my connection, so I studied in Scotland when I did my master's in physiotherapy. So that while I was there, I was able to be a student therapist for like one of the professional basketball teams there. I was able to work with the Scottish U16 national team, who actually beat England. So a lot of people think, oh, England is the powerhouse and they have all the players and whatever, but which is true. But Scotland's up there too. But just from that experience, it was really eye opening to see, like, as basic as it sounds, like these kids are very similar to the Canadian kids, right? They still need the same mentorship, they
Mhm.
still need the same guidance, right? For them, it's actually harder if they want to pursue NCAA opportunities, just because of proximity, right? So um, a part of me was like, how can we can replicate this, right? Like we can replicate it, do a lot of virtual stuff, still provide mentorship from UK born athletes and professionals,
Yeah.
right? So it's very much the same when you look at the structure of the Canadian NBYMP and the UK NBYMP. Um, but yeah, I mean, for me, I'm definitely thinking global. Like I'm thinking, once we continue to build Canada, once we establish the UK out there and get that going, let's hit some more English speaking countries.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Even
then,
US, right? Because they
yeah,
do.
yeah, exactly. And it's limitless. It really is limitless. Once you think about, especially again, like the virtual component,
Hmm.
right? Like we can reach anyone. So, yeah, I saw Josh in the just comment
Yeah.
brick by brick.
Brick by brick.
So,
Totally.
yeah,
Like Minecraft. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's doable, right? So that's definitely the goal.
Good, good. And like I said, it's just when I saw that with the UK side, I was like, you know what? This is amazing because you will associate the UK, England, all of it was just football slash soccer. But they do have pretty good talent. The majority of the players also, end up playing in the European League. And when they come over to this side, everyone looks at them like, oh, we didn't know you play sports. But there is more to it, again, than just basketball. B-ball mom Hannah says, "Love what you are doing. Takes time for sure." Yeah. So, thank you, Hannah. She's telling you, keep going. It definitely does take time, but brick by brick, you're persevering and keep going. Definitely sure. But again, each um, team or each organization is not an island of its own, and I'm sure you have an amazing, great support system that helps you on a regular basis to continue with this. Um,
Mhm.
with that, and when you were away studying, the program still continued. So the foundation that I believe you have set, continue to keep going. With that being said, what are some things you can tell even parents or the athletes watching with regards to teamwork? Because it's not a matter of having your name, like for instance, you mentioned LeBron. Yes, he's, supporting all these schools, but he's not there physically doing the registration and everything. He has a whole team that also supports. So how does, especially being a sports athlete, you got to learn to work with a team. So what are some of
Mhm.
the skills that you can tell both athletes that are watching and the parents is, in terms of understanding teamwork to make sure that the brick by brick you can get to the stages that you're where the vision is.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I'm I think in business it's a little different because you can select the people who you're around, right? Like sometimes in a team setting, your coach selects your team, right?
Hmm.
But I think for me, it's important to surround it with first and foremost, extremely passionate people about basketball and about youth development.
Hmm.
Um, because once you have a passion for that, you can't teach that. That has to come from their upbringing, right? So once they have that, once they have the the qualifications, all that stuff, then we can put them in a position to say, hey, we could really use your help and your support to grow and build this program, right?
Hmm.
But even within that, the teamwork aspect is huge because you could bring on the best person, and within a month you realize you two are bumping heads, you're not getting together. You see that with egos on a basketball court, right?
Yeah.
So um, it's it's easier to put the team together than it is to keep the team happy, right?
Okay.
So the biggest thing for me has always been about um, it's more first and foremost the culture. So setting that culture of, this is genuinely a family atmosphere. Um, I've been to family functions and different things of other NBYMP people, like not only staff and volunteers, but also like families, right? And just really establishing that family culture. Um, and the same thing goes for the team, right? You're playing on a team. It's establishing that culture first. The next thing is how can I keep um, you can't keep everyone happy, but how can I be a leader so that everyone can look at me and feel confident in my vision as a leader, but also feel confident in the program itself, right? So once they're able to do that, once they feel confident, um, then that makes the teamwork easier, right? They can respect what you're saying. It's no different than on the court. If you're a point guard and your teammates don't really respect you, um, it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. And yeah, it's really tough. And on the flip side of that, if let's say you're a shooting guard, right, and your team doesn't trust you, your point guard won't pass you the ball. Your point guard, other people won't let you get the shots that you want. So it's important. It's such a. I feel like we could go on and on about teamwork.
That's fine.
It's
Fine.
that.
There is a question in the chat that's asking what has been the toughest with your program?
Um, let's see. Toughest obstacles. It's a very good question.
Thanks,
So,
Mel, for that.
yeah, thanks, Miguel. Miguel and I go back quite a while. I think it's more about the business side. So with any business is tough, right? Whether you're trying to sell lemonade at a on a corner, or if you're trying to grow a nationwide program, right? So I think it's more so the business building aspect and just the stuff behind the scenes. So um, yeah, just making sure that your business is run properly and you're doing your taxes and doing administrative and like even keeping up with emails, like that kind of administrative stuff is definitely the toughest. But in regards to obstacles, um,
Like, did you find distance from anyone or any organization or individual that said, I don't need so and so to tell my kids what to do. My child is doing fine in this way, or what do you know about this? Like, because you're saying like you're still young, so when whether you're starting a small business or you're volunteering, you always feel like you do something, but
mhm.
being consistent and true to who you are over time, people end up realizing, okay, Kevin wasn't joking. He's been consistent and saying, and he's got a strong family support in there. So, with that being said, in terms of the hiccups or the obstacles, would it be more of in terms of you just mapping and understanding how to make this into a business, because you have the passion that started it, but how did it turn into that business? Could that be like those I would assume that you had to go through?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I just saw the comment there, um, B-ball and mom. So the lack of funding for basketball in Canada, um, that is definitely a real thing, and that's an obstacle in itself.
Yes.
And I think again, getting teams to it's one issue is the funding for sure. The other issue is, I guess, a lot of clubs, a lot of teams, a lot of people in general just are very they stay in a bubble. Like you very much are, let's work together, let's all collaborate, let's grow this together because we know the funding is limited. Some people will hold on to the small funding that they have and try and change the world on their own without opening the door up to, organizations like myself or to yourself or to other organizations to help. So that's unfortunate, and that in itself is an obstacle because if you can't reach out to certain people or collaborate with certain people, then you just have to, keep trying, keep knocking on doors, keep seeing who is willing to collaborate. So for sure, I think all of these things are obstacles.
Yeah. And I think keyword, hopefully, Miguel, that answered your your question, based on what Kevin says, just keep going. Like, don't give up. It's have that vision. Just keep, passing through, because somebody says no now doesn't mean everybody else is going to say no later. Even if they say no, you know why you're doing it. So keep going. I think the same advice we give the kids is the same thing we will give ourselves too, right? And Josh also says, post this afterward, please. Some great conversations. Yes, I'll this, and make sure that all the key points that is being mentioned here will be recapped as well too. So anybody else sit down and watch and still soak in all the great knowledge that Kevin has given us, you can still do that. And again, I will also provide all their contact in there, so anybody passing through that's not sure of what it is that we're talking about, you can reach out to National Basketball Youth Mentorship. Christine, who I believe is one of the parents, with your organization, said, try to surround yourself with positive people. And I believe that's good. That's a key point too. Positive people, because if you want to go forward, you can't be sitting down with people that are not willing to move, like they want to be a tree, right? Mm-hmm. So I always see her also, give a lot of positive vibes to you guys for all that you do. And I think that's when I met her, through one of your events when we were in Brampton. We met there, and it was just great job vibe. So yes, hi Christine, thank you for participating. So yeah, keep the questions coming in, but I wanted to move forward to the next one, just to understand. I know you've talked about the UK aspect of it. We talked about the foundation aspect of it. Post-COVID, because everything's a lot virtual, which you say your initial view was more about also being virtual and not doing that physical aspect of it. But because of how everybody has gone through with these a year and a half or almost 2 years now, the activity, the possibility of going back out and seeing people in person and being active, and especially with basketball or soccer or whatever athlete you are, what are some of the things that you are planning on or thinking of that you feel that will also benefit to continue the version of still, providing the mentorship, but bring back the physical aspect of it post-COVID?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, post-COVID, I can't wait. As much as I talk about this COVID period is beneficial for NBYMP, I can't wait. So you mentioned that we do a lot of summer programming in Ontario and across Ontario, and we've comfortably done well with that. The focus now is more out of province, right? Okay. So we've partnered with Columbia Bible College in BC. We've been chatting with different colleges and universities just to conduct workshops in those locations.
Nice.
So that I'm really looking forward to. The Raptors are a huge part of what we do as well. So getting the young athletes on the court, getting them to interact with players as few times as that may be, like it's still a huge benefit. So just getting to Raptors games as a NBYMP family, and
yes, in person game. Oh my goodness.
I know. I can't even picture what that feels like anymore.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, outside of those two things, obviously the UK stuff, definitely want to do in-person stuff there. Okay. The thought, I was speaking to a club in the UK, and they're very, very interested in coming down to Canada. So potentially doing like a cross, NBYMP UK Canada kind of game or tournament kind of thing there. So yeah, there's so much post-COVID, I think.
The sky's the limit, seriously. Keep going. Okay, so UK though, and you did mention earlier that their needs similar to the needs within Canadian students or student athletes here, and with the crossover coming in, just on the fun note, like, what would be some of the things that you feel that hey, our UK team, when you're coming in, these are good things that we want to teach you, versus when they come here, we can say, hey, these are the good things that make us Canada that we can teach you, so that it's still under the umbrella of being an athlete, but the cultural crossover. Yes, they speak English and we speak English, but it's still different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that, if I'm not sure if you've already, thought over it in the head in advance of it, just that cross reference between, mentors and mentors, or mentees and mentees, or even parents, just to get that connection so that as you build that global umbrella, regardless of where you are, there's that common knowledge of it. Has any of that thought come through your planning stages at all?
Yeah, for sure. Like virtual events, we did one in Canada recently.
Okay.
Um, so my long-term goal with that is like one big virtual event, right? With kids from the UK, parents from the UK, uh, kids and families from Canada joining in and engaging in that content,
Mm-hmm.
that mutually benefiting content. Um, and yeah, I think I leave the content for the professionals. Just for example, Naomi James, who leads our sports psychology, like she does a phenomenal job of saying, like if a team wants to build confidence, right,
Mm-hmm.
which is again, that's a Canadian thing, that's a UK thing, that's a global thing.
Yep.
Uh, if a team wants to focus on that, she's able to create, endless presentations on how to build confidence, right? So I think it's yeah, definitely leaving it to the professionals to make sure that they're challenging both the UK and Canada kids
Right.
through mutual content.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but yeah,
there's
yeah.
the style of ball is different, and we all definitely can learn from each other in terms of their style, because European ball is different. It's true. When you your game, it's a lot different. I think that's why even at the highest level, WNBA or NBA, when the European players come in, most people are like, "Whoa, where did it come from?" Like it's a different passion. It's a different level of it. So that's true. That's one way we definitely cross educate each other. And Josh again also says that Brampton ball and Guelph ball is different. It's crazy how many styles to play there. Okay, do tell the difference between Guelph and Brampton. I would assume maybe people call different terms different ways, but like you said earlier, though, the need in terms of getting that support, mentorship, regardless of which part of the world that you're at, when you're a human being and you need somebody to help you out, it's that commonality aspect of
Mhm.
it. Talking about business again, I know you have multiple things under your umbrella, and you were humbled when you were introducing yourself, but you're also a co-author or a co-editor from one of the books, Women for the Win, that also came out a couple of year or two ago. And tell us what it is and how it came about, because especially with the rise of interest of women athletes and women in basketball and all of that, it's good for a lot of the young ones that are coming up to go back, take a step, and actually reread and learn from those that have gone through the same process that they're trying to go through. So tell us more about that particular book and the project.
Definitely. And um, yeah, I for introductions, I generally I've been told, I don't give the full picture, but no, I'm happy you brought up that. So that book, just over a year old, but again, like thinking of building women's basketball in Canada, as a lot of people on this call is aware of, is
Mhm.
very limited. It's lacking, right? We look at the UK and they have a professional women's league that's doing amazing. People are watching it. It's doing well.
Yep.
You look at other countries; they have a professional women's league, right? It's kind of sad to see that Canada doesn't have that, but it's also sad to see that the funding for women's basketball and women's sports in general is just lower.
Yep.
Right? It's very sad. So the least that we could do is that book, Women for the Win. So featuring three WNBA players, college coaches, university coaches, um, and just them telling their story.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was huge. And Christine mentioned it. It's a great read. The
Okay.
kids can learn so much.
Yep. Yeah.
And it really is. They really tell the truth of, being a female in Canada playing basketball is difficult, right? Like that's the common theme of the book. That's one of the themes of the book. But there are so many success stories of that,
Yeah.
right? And that's shown through the WNBA players that we have in the book, and shown through Chantal Valley, who's the coach at Windsor, but she's won like 5 national championships, and you can still do it, right? You can still be a female playing basketball. You can still do it, right? So that was a project. It took a long time to do, but that was a project that I think was much needed, and it was close to the heart for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is a great read, as Christine said. But back up a little bit, Hannah was also talking about if you do anything related to mental health for student athletes, and she finds that sometimes with her own students, because she provides, she's a coach and she also does educational services for kids with reading and writing. I skip lesson plans and let them just talk. And it's difficult for them, and she can only imagine. So above all the umbrellas of the services, is mental health one of them. I can attest that it is, because 2020, just before we all went lockdown, we opened the year with 905, and we had the symposium there, where after the game we had the talk with various different athletes and their parents speaking, talking about their experience, including Coach Rumi, just Reyes, and everything like that. Is there something that you're looking to continue, even if it's virtual, or even if post-COVID we have to do physical, just so that the mental aspect? I mean, everybody always says it, but we don't really know what it could actually, project to when the bubbles are all open and things like that. So is that something that's still part on your platform, and trying to make sure that you provide that mental support to both parents or students or anything of that sort?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the so we talked about financial literacy being the most underrated
Hmm.
aspect of NBYMP, but I think sports psychology and mental health, and I put those two together, although people would say that they're very, very different. But that is one of the most appreciated parts of our program. And it's appreciated by the young athletes who may struggle with their mental health. And it's appreciated by the parents, specifically of those kids who do struggle with mental health. So that one is one we want to build during COVID, post COVID. Like that's one that we want to maintain, and we want to partner with, like you mentioned, the Raptors 905, partner with you, partner with other organizations to shed light on that component.
Yeah.
But again, you think of limited funding in basketball, and then now you're asking for funding in other areas of basketball, like mental health, sports psychology. There's even less funding in that, right? So I guess same thing like we've been talking about, it's making people aware of these holistic approaches.
Hmm.
Again, there's more to basketball than basketball.
Yep.
And yeah, just really trying to get people to buy into that. And again, if we can provide a book like Women for the Win, where they're telling their stories and their struggles of mental health,
Mhm.
how speaking to someone like a therapist, or just even making that popular,
Yep.
right? Because that's still something that I think could be a bit more popular. Like I think athletes should be like, they should openly tell their teammates like, hey, I'm going to go speak to my therapist, you know,
Yep.
can't make it out right now, you know?
Yep. I think that's actually, that you were saying, I'm thinking one services I realize some of the clubs or leagues may also not have is everybody's a coach, and we see have so much so much responsibility on them to be everything. But if you can't be everything, provide additional service, link them to other mental health, emotional health support. It's not just aspect of it. So much more wanted for us to raise the kids to whether for us to be professional or recreational. So yes, Hannah, hopefully that answers your question. They do continue to always provide that mental health support to all their members. And they've hosted various different events that has targeted and, focused primarily on that and making sure that you're a holistic person and not just, or just a point guard or whatever position that you play. So yes, hopefully that answers that particular profession. And going back to the Women for the Win, I know the NBA just started, and there's a lot of Canadians in there. If you have to pick who you're going to say win, not being biased or anything, I'm not putting you under there. Um, who will you be picking to say, hey, this is the one I'm picking for to go ahead and win it all and bring home the cup to Canada?
Um, my girls, Natalie Achano and Bridget Carlton won't like my answer, but they're both on Minnesota. I we'll see what they think. I just think Phoenix is so strong.
Yeah.
Right now,
Okay.
with Kia Nurse is on there, Diana Taurasi, right? Like Skylar Diggins Smith. Like I just think they're so strong. So I think Kia Nurse will be the first to bring it home to Canada.
Nice.
But yeah, yeah.
You know,
I believe in Natalie and Bridget though.
girls are gonna possibly have a WNBA here in Canada or Toronto. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to Kareem, and he was talking about all the various, behind the scenes work, or continuously talking about the need and the requirements for it, because you have so support in terms of the WNBA that wrote the book. They're also part of the organization, provide mentorship to a lot of girls who are up and coming. So the need is here. It's not about just going away, but if they can have that connection and say, hey, I started off with Kevin, and this is what we're doing, and now we have the team here. Can you imagine having like a big, organize a big event in Scotiabank, just mainly for all the female athletes and all the female students that have been supported through the years?
Mm-hmm.
Shoot for the star, man. That would be awesome.
I know. No, that would be awesome. I think there was a and one sec. Let me just because I was looking around trying to find a charger just now. I don't want my phone to die.
No problem.
Give me
It's almost an hour or two, so don't worry. It doesn't die out.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Okay,
It's,
cool.
yeah, we're good.
The
But no, that
lifeline.
would what's that?
The lifeline.
Yeah, I know. I know. No, we're good. No, but that's a good point. And I think there was an organization that
Yeah.
tried bringing one here, or just tried to get some exposure, so that it could be brought here. But that would be huge. I don't know who's gonna do it, who's gonna eventually bring it here. Even just, I don't know. Even I know there's a pro league as well starting in the Maritimes, in those provinces for women. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't know much about it. I think it's starting up next year. I could be wrong. But even if it's that start, and then that trickles over, and we get some stuff on the West Coast and all that, then it's needed.
So that's more in terms of, once you're in the college or university or pro level. For organization, what age do you start and what age do you end? And is there ever an ending? Like, say, I can, my son or my daughter is 3 years old. She likes bouncing ball, but can you talk to them? Like, where do you start that conversation and say, yes, join us, sign up, we will provide the services, we will work with you, so, to the level that both the child understands and the parents know that they're receiving the services that they're seeking. So to start, like, in terms of age gap.
Yeah, the earliest we've started as 5.
Okay.
To that point that you mentioned, where having that parent reach out and say, can you chat with my 5-year-old? So yeah, we've started as early as 5, and then up to 18, 19.
Okay.
Like that's where we would say, and that's not to say like we have athletes who would join at 16, and because our program is 3 years old now they would be 19, right? So we definitely want to stay in contact with those athletes, get them involved now. Maybe they can, if not a mentor, then they can help out as a volunteer. We can help their career, right?
Yep.
So that's a focus as well post that 18, 19 mark.
And is it for just basketball, or do you also provide mentorship based on other sports?
Good question. It's mainly been basketball. But you raise a good question, because I think the mentorship itself, that is that has nothing to do with basketball, right? So the fact that we have pro athletes giving that mentorship or university athletes giving that mentorship, um, most of the time when they speak to a child, it has nothing to do with basketball. It was more like, how's your school going? What do you want to be in the future? How can I help you to be that in the future?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's a good question because, again, we talked about branching off to the UK and how we can replicate the model that we have for NBYMP to the UK. But this can be replicated for different sports, right? And a soccer player could come to us and ask for specific questions. On the flip side of that, we could have an NBYMP, well, an NSYMP for National Soccer Youth Mentorship Program, right? So, um, yeah, there's I think there's a need regardless of the sport for mentorship, but us personally, I think we've just mainly touched on basketball and like young basketball athletes.
I like that. I like that. Okay, good. Anybody else have any other question? My comment section went down a bit. Oh, Josh saying that Phoenix could play in the NBA, and Phoenix is loaded. Great. And Christine is saying, as a parent, the mentorship my daughter has received and do Ruby's to receive has helped her in so many ways other than basketball. So thank you, Christine. That's a great testimonial back, just letting you know that the work you're doing is going beyond just the sport, the world of sports itself. It's okay, oops, and continue to receive. You have don't auto type, things work out. It's okay. We understand what you're trying to say, Christine. Josh says
Yeah,
national
Chris.
mentorship program. Who says no? Okay, okay. So he's already giving you names to start working on behind the scenes, do the paperwork for that, which I think is great because, like you said, when you're providing support or mentorship to somebody who likes a sport, regardless of what the sport is, they're coming in there as a person, and what your service does provides that connection to them to let them know that it's okay and whatever they're going through is going to be good. Um, and yeah, those were there for that. So to round it off before your phone dies, hopefully it doesn't die on us. Um, what is it that you're seeking from the volunteer community? Anyone out there that's gonna watch later, or anything that you would like, your own public service announcements, upcoming events, upcoming, services, information service, anything. This is your opportunity now. I will not be interrupting. Just say, hey, no, this is Kevin. What we're looking for. If you're looking for this, is what we do. Sort of a little closure that sometimes people skip when they watch things and then to the end, and they can still get that full picture of what you represent and the great services that you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just to give a quick, so this is how I kind of envision my own, like when I think of my own goals, like my own life, right? Like long term.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows who Jesus is, regardless of whether they're Christian or Muslim or whatever, right? But Jesus was a carpenter, right? That was his profession,
Yep.
right? But then when people ask who was Jesus, right? People don't necessarily say a carpenter, right? They say he was,
The
you know,
same.
savior of the world. He was XYZ, whatever, whatever. Um, I guess just I'm not comparing the mentorship program to Jesus and who he is, but I'm saying yes, we're trying to train basketball players, but at the end of the day, when people ask who you are, what are you, um, how can you contribute to society, right?
Mm-hmm.
People shouldn't say, oh, he's a basketball player, he can contribute and be great at basketball, right? People should be saying, he's an, or he or she, right, whoever
Mm-hmm.
is an activist, right? They're a lawyer, but they're also, XYZ, right? So
Yep.
the mentorship program really just is about allowing people to realize that maximum potential,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not just saying, okay, I want to be a professional basketball player. Okay, but what else? What else are you? What else do you want to be, right? So that would be the mentorship program as a whole, right? But in regards to closing messages, I think, like on the topic that we've been talking about, supporting, decreased funding in Canadian basketball, right? Like, I think if the more people can understand the need for collaboration, partnership, unity,
Yeah.
investing, right, in the basketball community, not just financially, but through things like you're doing, right? Like you've stayed consistent with, bringing on prominent people
Thank you.
um, here and just chatting with them and getting them to share their stories. Like the more we can have of that, that grows Canadian basketball. That allows young organizations who are a year old, 6 months old, right? That helps them to thrive and for
Hmm.
them to carry out their mission. So, um, yeah, in a nutshell, just keep supporting. Anyone listening, just keep supporting any way you can Canadian basketball, um, regardless of, again, like whether it's a youth organization or whether it's the Toronto Raptors.
Hmm.
Um, Definitely keep supporting.
Keep supporting, exactly. And I think you also did some work with the CEBL, the Canadian Elite Basketball League as well too. Just touch on it a little bit about the role you played in there that ties in into your education, with also ties it into the athlete's well-being, because you didn't just show up and say, hey, I'm here to mentor you. No, you were doing a whole bunch of other things that helped the athletes also to be able to compete at their highest level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the CEBL, shout out to those guys too. They're doing amazing stuff. But for me personally, I had helped them out as a student physiotherapist. So I guess just building on my own personal career and agenda for that side. Um, we definitely want to help them. Uh, and now we're thinking of the pro athletes, right? Like if we're thinking of financial literacy, again, some athletes are still in the mindset of, I'm a pro athlete. This is who I am. When someone asks, who are you? What do you do?
Yeah,
I'm a professional basketball player, right? Your answer should be much, much, much more broader than that. So if we're able to help through that, right, financial literacy, educating them on investing, um, speaking on sports psychology, and just talk about goal setting, career goal setting, just different things like that, then that would be, I think that's as equally beneficial for Canadian basketball than, again, just helping them with on court stuff. Or for me, helping them as a student physio, getting them healthy. Yes,
yeah,
that's great. But again, what's the bigger picture here?
exactly. Exactly. I think you touch on all the great points as well too, which is from a parent's perspective, we don't want you to just get up and bounce the ball. You have to understand why you're bouncing. And what if the ball stops bouncing? What if your knee get locked? Like anything can happen, if one finger is hurting, the other hand is there. Like the talent that we have, exactly like you mentioned with Jesus' story. Yes, he started as a carpenter, but had other talents in addition to it that led him to be where he was. So, which is great. So thank you for sharing that, because that's a good way to think of it. You don't see one person always as that. There's always a backstory, or there's multiple facets to who we are. We're not just the one title. There's more to us. We're
Mm-hmm.
child, daughter, sister, brother, whatever. But we have that talent. And I think what you're doing is one way of helping them be able to bring out their other talent that they may have already been scared of to showcase. But having the mentorship, the support the team is doing helps that out as well. Uh, and then Christine says we have such much talent in players and coaches. We need to encourage our players to stay here and play for Canadian universities. Yes, the youth sports here in Canada. Again, I think it goes back to what you were saying before about funding as well too. So that could be everybody wants to make some money. But if they join you in the financial literacy, they will know that, hey, you can still go to Hamburg, finish, go to UFT, get your master's, and still be in sport and still make the same dollars that somebody who has to go pay $30,000-$40,000 to live in a boarding house just in hopes of making it somewhere. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, always have a backup plan. I agree. I think that's something every parents tell the kids. Backup plan. Hannah also says one of my goals is to assist young athletes with contract review, negotiation, etc., legal education. Really like your example. So yes, that's good, and that's something that we need to make sure they understand what they're signing. What is it that they're putting themselves in there? so that you don't just come in and finish and you're a pro, but you're a broke pro. Or you're hurting pro and you're injured and nobody can help you in that sense. And I think what you were saying in terms of physiotherapy aspect of it, on your page, like you do provide a lot of information of how to take care of yourself when certain injury happens. And those are things I think we need to keep focusing on. So for any of the organizations I can watch, a lot later, it's not all about just on court training, because if the kids have the skills are there. But the services, the mental aspect, the emotional, the financial, just the verbal talking that Kevin's organization does is also one way of making sure that we're raising a holistic human being, correct? And
Mm-hmm.
that's awesome. Can I also just let you give a shout out to your wife, which I know she's kind of seems that has been very helpful in making sure that your service. And I also shout out to you with supporting her with starting her own business as well too. It's not basketball related, but this goes back to teamwork. So shout
Yep.
out to Audrey as well. Hopefully she's watching for
Yeah.
for consistently supporting and providing all these information that we all see there as parents. Like you see it, you see for the kids, and it's well recommendable. Like definitely. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'll give a shout out to her too, because the support is definitely, I think we talked about teamwork,
mhm,
right? And in the same ways that, Christine, who's also on this call, supports the NBYMP, she's like, everyone needs that, right? Everyone needs that support, regardless of who it's coming from, right?
mhm.
So for Audrey, she's that support for me. Christine and many others are that support for the NBYMP. And
Yeah.
it's so crucial.
Yes, yes. So have a strong support system to be able to through the goal that you want to. And as someone said earlier, surround yourself with positive people, because that's the one that can definitely get you where you need to be. So yes, I said I was not going to interrupt, and I did. So I have to learn to when to cut it. But you did provide, a little bit preview of what is to come post COVID. Please, Lord. COVID world. Once we're out of the timeout, um, is there anything else within, other than just Canada and UK, you mentioned global, that for the wider audience watching it, if they need to reach out to you, how else can they contact you? What else are key things that they need to be aware of when they're reaching out so that the communication back and forth flows easily?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, post COVID. Well, yeah, post COVID. I heard a couple questions, so I want to make sure
No
answer all the questions. But
problem.
um, post COVID, yeah, definitely we're thinking global, right? But obviously there's steps and all that stuff in between. So um, for sure, just building the Canadian brand. Like I said, the workshops across the country, different colleges, universities. Josh in the comments just put
Okay.
in, that's the email address. If teams and clubs, or even just individuals are looking to benefit from the services like sports psychology, nutrition, some of the
Mhm.
stuff that we offer, they can definitely go to that email address in the comments. Um, Me myself, info@nbymp.ca, or just Instagram, right? Like very, very accessible there. And what was the last question?
Well, you answered it all actually.
Okay.
Like how they can, anyone looking to connect with you can reach you, which you provided two emails, which I will also tag in the post, our discussion as well. Um, Anything else before I give you my last round, in which I just like to always finish off with just a little light up, because it feels like I don't want to be like a job interview, but this wasn't so bad. This wasn't
Yeah, yeah.
not everybody's comfortable talking out loud, especially when it's social media, like. So I want
Mhm.
and I thank you again for wanting to come here and sharing your story and all the great things that you're doing and the greater things that it's set to come. One last question: you had the podcast that was about the faithful one. Or is it
Mhm.
come back again, or is it still continue? Because in times like these, everybody needs a little prayer with so much tension going on in the world. Um,
Yeah.
is you're always connected with the athletes. having faith help them get where they are under.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good question. So that component's extremely, I hold it extremely important, like to me personally, to incorporate in the program for reasons like you mentioned. Like everyone needs, you always see NBA players talk about their belief system, right,
Mm-hmm.
and how that's benefited them throughout their lives and throughout their career as an NBA or WNBA player. So extremely important, which is why, and for me myself, grew up in a Christian household, and my dad is a pastor and all this stuff. So it's very, very dear to my heart to grow that aspect of the program. So yes, the podcast, Faith, Full Court Faith, we want to build that. So keep bringing on, prominent athletes to talk about their faith. But there's other aspects that I want to incorporate. So putting out like a book. I'm currently working on a book to pretty much guiding the Christian athlete on and off the court,
Yeah.
right? And that's from elementary school all the way up to college, university,
Nice.
and that's uh, from my own experiences, right? Like elementary school, there's not much, I guess, temptations and exposures and things of that nature, but there's still things to be mindful of.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get to high school, college, university, that's a whole new ballpark, right? Like you're on your own, your parents aren't there, you can go to parties anytime you want, right? And it's extremely important, again, to grow that aspect through podcasts, books, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
um, because for all the information we're putting out to young athletes, there's 10 times more information, negative information, that's being put out, and kids have easy exposure to it through
Oh,
Instagram and social media.
there's no
So
media. Oh, uh, none of that.
yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so quick. So yeah, to answer that question, yeah, that'll definitely come back to podcast. You'll probably see more Instagram stuff, looking to start like its own page, and just make that its own brand,
great.
powered by the NBYMP. But yeah, through the book, the podcast, through other initiatives, partnering with different churches and doing stuff like that. That's a huge that's something that will be in the future for sure.
Wow. Well, you know what? I think you're doing amazing with all the different umbrellas that you continuously do. Each of them still have that common goal of giving back and supporting and making a person a holistic. I want to say thank you for that, for keep doing it, and shout out to all the support system that also help you keep it to do that, and you do it together, whether you're physically here or you are in Scotland. It was still going on without missing a beat. So that's great leadership. That's great vision, and that's great teamwork all together that continue to keep going. And I wish you continuous success to make it going. Make it global. Like I said, have the name on the blimp, a Goodyear blimp just passing through. Yes, we're right here, and you have all your subsidiaries underneath it. So you like amazing. Someone at Classe says, my guy kept giving you the thumbs up. So shout out
Mhm.
to you for that. And my last, this is definitely the last question. I always say that time. Um, who has inspired you? Whether you're growing up or even now or you've come across it that helps you to continue to keep, who has inspired you, continues to inspire.
hmm And by all means, I'm here all night. So if you have more questions, I'm here.
My brain
Uh,
always like boom, boom, boom.
yeah, no, I'm good. Uh, but inspiration. So two important mentors that I often talk about. Paul Crawford. He is one of the directors of NBYMP. So Vontae, his dad was Paul Crawford, and Paul Crawford unfortunately passed away. But he was the one who introduced myself to basketball, introduced Vontae to basketball, and so many other people. In the like out of the directors and staff of NBYMP, like Paul Crawford has impacted a lot of them. So he unfortunately passed away, but again, his teachings to us as young kids was second to none, right? Like he was just always teaching us about basketball, off-court stuff, manners, right? Just little things like that. And then Graham Doig, so when I was 12, I unfortunately broke my knee. And then that's how I got into physiotherapy. So I started seeing a physiotherapist, Graham, and he made that process enjoyable for me and really inspired me to become a physiotherapist. So he inspired that academic side. So those two were, when I think of NBYMP and providing mentorship to kids, those two were like the inspiration behind that component. He unfortunately passed away as well, so it's really about like keeping their legacy alive through the stuff that I'm currently doing. And then my parents, of course, I always have to throw them in because, as you know, like you can't, yeah, that goes without saying. Like when you have both parents in your life, and again, like I'm fortunate enough to have that. A lot of people don't have that. A lot of kids in the program don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I talk about it, I'm definitely humbled because, you know, it's made me who I am. So, and now currently who provides that mentorship, still my parents. But also just when I see things like LeBron James,
Mm-hmm.
right? And some of those guys who are doing things on a global scale and, you know, giving out scholarships all the time and doing all these things, that's inspiring for me. And I don't see them as being in their own category, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I see myself right in there, right? I'm just like they can do it, I can do it, right? They can inspire the world and bring about change in an effective way. I could do that through the NBYMP, and you know, God willing, this gets global. Then hopefully we can impact thousands of kids, and when it's all said and done, hundreds of scholarships have been given out. So those are my inspirations now, just seeing those people doing big things.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. I know I went over a little bit over the time, but I appreciate it. And thank you to everyone that was also putting in the comments and asking your questions. Hopefully, we got to answer most everybody's questions. Again, I will provide the emails, the contact, the website on how to reach out to National Basketball Youth Mentorship, the foundation, the books, the podcast, everything Kevin and his team continuously do to make sure that our youth, male or female, from between the ages of 5 and up, is always well taken care of, mentally, financially, emotionally, physically, healthy, every way that you're doing. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And that will be it for the day. So, yes, so again, thank you to everybody and have a good night, Kevin. Shout out to on our behalf too as well.
Yeah, and quick shout out to you, quick thank you to you. Just keep, honestly, for what it's worth, just keep that same energy because it's appreciated and it's needed, right? So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Yeah, do it from the heart, and that's all. Yeah,
Yeah.
God be the glory. Thank you so much, Kev.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.